New York City is in crisis, clobbered by the virus and lockdown and urban unrest. It's very hard to see how New York and other cities can come out of this in even halfway decent shape. City dwellers are facing, in my opinion, a grim future.
Well, there you have it. Stu laying it on the line. Let's bring in James Famularo, Meridian Retail Leasing President. James, good morning to you. Look, you're concerned that a lot of these retailers won't be able to reopen at all. Is that correct?
That's correct. Thanks for having me, Ashley. I actually agree with Stuart. I think the longer we prolong the opening of these businesses, the more we're going to see closures. Every day we get different announcements. Starbucks closing 400 stores, Zara closing 1,200 stores. I mean, the $4 billion loss that Macys just posted doesn't surprise me at all. We're going to continue to get bad news every single day.
Well, I wanted to bring up Macys. As you mentioned, they did report profits today. They did see a sales bump as the lockdown begins to wane, but they did post that $630 million first quarter loss. For a company the size of Macys, do you really feel they're going to struggle to survive?
I mean, they were struggling before the pandemic. They announced 160 stores closing, and how does anybody expect them to be profitable with all the stores closed, and with these daily threats from the governor and the mayor of New York City saying that we are going to extend the next phase and we might close outdoor dining. We're all in survival mode. We need to open safely.
Yeah, and you know what's interesting? You mentioned, that Macys was struggling before the pandemic, but if you walked along in New York City, Fifth Avenue, Lexington, there are a lot of boarded up windows anyway. Stores were struggling against online competition and also the incredibly high rents that are charged in New York City. It feels like this is the moment where they literally get pushed over the edge. And that has a huge impact on a city like New York when you have so many people just not returning and unable to afford the rent. So those places will just stand empty for some time.
I agree. I think Fifth Avenue and Madison Avenue are two of the hardest hit corridors in the entire city because, as you mentioned, the high rent levels. So, I mean, the daily closings and slowly but surely you're seeing the boards come down. And that gives a little bit of optimism, but it's still very bleak at this point.
So, James, I guess the survival comes from those retailers who have been aggressive in getting their e-commerce side up and running and competing at some level. It's very hard to deal with the Amazons and the other big behemoths, but can retailers still carve out a niche for themselves in this environment?
Yeah, I mean, it's an ongoing challenge, online versus brick and mortar, but I think at the end of the day, people always need the experience of being outdoor and interacting. It's human to be social. So, and after all this time being locked up, I look forward to the day that I could walk through a department store or go to a restaurant and sit down like a normal human being again.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, James. Stay right there if you can. I have some breaking news right now. New York City planning apparently to roll back some parts of its reopening plans. Susan,
speaking of
what
restaurants,
do we know?
Yeah, New York City says that they are joining New Jersey in shelving indoor dining indefinitely, according to Mayor de Blasio, as bar and restaurant-linked COVID cases are surging across the nation. We know that 17 states have rolled back or paused some of their reopening, and this includes restaurants now here in New York. De Blasio says now is not the time to forge ahead with indoor dining in the 5 boroughs.
Susan, thank you. James, come back in if you can. So news like this hurts all businesses, does it not, including retailers?
It actually does. It does. And right now, people are in survival mode, so they need to open. People are struggling. The PPP money and the SBA money will only last so long. So this partial opening, this curbside pickup, this outdoor dining is really a lifeline. Now that he's pulling back, this the ability to make money at this point is only going to hurt. What the mayor needs to do is meet with some of these small business owners to come up with a cohesive plan to reopen safely. Of course, we're going to get a spike in new cases because testing is up. That's only natural. That's
right.
Common sense.
Very good. We'll have to leave it there. James Famularo, great stuff, James. Thanks for joining us this morning in what is a very tough environment for retailers, no doubt. All right.